Hi, I'm Heather North from heatherscreativeblessings.com. It is the 17th of the month, and that means it is time for the Calling All Sistahs blog hop to remind you to do your monthly breast self-exams and schedule those yearly mammograms. And we do that each month by having a fun blog hop for you. I'm going to be using two stamp sets today, both from Casual Friday Stamps, our sponsor. One is called B, and the other is called Word Ribbon. And I'm going to do some Emboss Resist with some Distress watercolor. So I pulled out some Tim Holtz Distress watercolor paper and my Misty. And I'm going to use my Misty to kind of line everything up and stamp it twice, because these are brand new stamps. I haven't actually stamped with them before. And I find being able to ink it up and stamp twice gives me a much better image, especially on watercolor paper. It's pretty porous. Normally when I use my Misty, I line it up on my paper, but I decided that, if I line this up on the grid that is part of the mat included in the Misty, I could line it up so they're all going on the same line on the left and that they're lined up horizontally across one of the lines, because I'm going to end up die cutting this out later. It doesn't have to be directly in a certain spot on the paper. It just needs to be on the paper. So before I add my embossing powder, I want to use my deactivator tool. And it's just a little bit of powder inside of the tool there. I rub it all over my paper so that it removes any static or any fingerprints or anything that the embossing powder might want to stick to. And as you can see, I inked it up twice with Versamark ink, and then I'm using some Wow Opaque Bright White, I believe it's called, Superfine embossing powder. And it's hard to see on the video, I know, but it's just a dry powder, and I'm going to heat set it until that embossing powder melts. Next, I'm going to just put those stamps away, and I'm going to pull out the little Hope ribbon in the Word Ribbon stamp set, and I'm going to stamp it at the very bottom right corner. I'm going to use my deactivator tool again just to make sure there's no stray anything. And those magnets, you can see some of them have washi tape on it. That makes it so the magnets are easier to pull apart when they flip together and also pick up from the grid mat. So I'm going to do the same thing. I inked it in Versamark ink, added some white embossing powder. I'm going to heat set this until it melts and turns shiny, and then I can move on to my next step. This is where we get to play with color and water, and we get a different result every time. So I'm going to take here some picked raspberry. That's the pink color, and I want the most of that, so I've got some big splotches of that. And then I'm coming in with Festive Berries. It's a red, and Wilted Violet. And these are all distressings. It's on a distress mat. It's a non-stick mat. And then I'm just spritzing it with some water to get that ink kind of flowing and moving. I also spritzed my watercolor paper just a little bit, and then I'm mushing it, very technical, mushing it into that ink. And it's just gorgeous. You can tap the spots that maybe didn't get any ink on it, or if you want to change the color a little bit. And then you can either set it aside to dry, or you can use your heat tool to dry. But I don't like wasting all that ink on my paper. So anytime I do this technique, I pull out another piece of watercolor paper or cardstock and get that inky and wet too. This way I get two technique pieces with one messy ink splotch. I'm just going to heat set this piece off there on the left because I'm going to want to finish this card for you. And then I'll also add some heat to the card on, well, I guess it's just cardstock, on the right, and dip it into those bubbles again, because I love the look of these little ink water droplets all over my sheet, which you'll see in just a second here. Isn't that cool? I love the two different looks that you get here. And to clean it up, I just use a baby wipe and wipe up all that inky mess. For the little Hope ribbon, I wanted it to stand out a little bit more, so I grabbed my Zig Clean Color Wheel Brush marker, and I just colored it in, and then I thought I'm going to wipe off the extra ink on the top, so I grabbed a baby wipe. Don't do that. the alcohol or whatever was in the baby wipe smeared it into the embossing. I didn't like how it looked. So I just took some water and I'm dabbing it off. That turned out pretty cool. Just use a damp paper towel, I would suggest, or even a dry paper towel to wipe off the excess ink on top. The baby wipe tended to discolor my ribbon. Or maybe it was the zig, I don't know. So this was completely dry, and I went and used the Blueprints 27 from My Favorite Things die, and I die cut out my panel. Now this has a scallop as well as a stitch detail in it. I just love it. And I decided to mat it onto some black cardstock. Now my watercolor piece is a little bit warped from all of the water, the embossing, the heat setting. So what I am doing to help it lay flat as it nails is to just take some 3M mounting tape all the way around my cardstock. And this gives it a nice even layer. I'm just going to peel off that backing, center it on my card front, and my card will be done. As I said in the beginning of this video, I made this card as part of the Calling All Sistahs blog hop, sponsored by Casual Friday Stamps. If you're watching on YouTube, you'll want to head over to my blog. If you're on my blog, you will want to leave a comment down below. Michelle Gross is giving away 3 $15 gift certificates to Casual Friday Stamp Store to people who comment along the blog hop. So leave comments on everyone's blog. But most importantly, go check yourself. Do your self-exams. Schedule those yearly mammograms. Even if you do it, set out to January, because I know the holidays are coming up. It's important to take care of yourself because early detection is key to a long-term survival and cure. Thank you so much for joining me today. If you like my video, give me a thumbs up and subscribe to my YouTube channel to see more. I'll see you in my next video. Bye.